Hi, I'm Cillian Duffy and welcome to round 6 of the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship, the Modern Tyres Ulster Rally. 10 stages lie ahead for the crews today. Let's join Mark James for the action.
The fantastic facility at Modern Tyres hosted the 2024 Ulster Rally service area, and although only a one-day format, the crews weren't underestimating the challenge ahead. Callum Devine came here with the number 1 on his door. The new car looks to be a good package, but the roads here on the Modern Tyres Ulster Rally are certainly different to Donegal.
Stages are very, very different, but thankfully they haven't been like the way they have been the last 2 years with the rain, because it's very, very slippy, a lot of dust, a lot of mud pulled out, and gravel, and the road's been so narrow, so there's a lot to take in. It's not like Donegal, as you say, so it's going to be a new rally, new setup, try and work with this car, so looking forward to it. As long as it's dry, we're looking forward to it.
Keith Cronin leads the championship coming into this round, but that doesn't mean the pressure's off. He would still need a good result on the remaining rounds to keep his position at the top.
These stages are so tricky, I don't know if it's the right place to go flat out from the word go, so we'll see what our pace is like in the first one and go from there.
Matt Edwards goes well on stages like this, and indeed has won the event twice in the past, but the tight and technical stages would be a challenge on a one-day event with no room for error.
There's usually some places in the stages that you think, I might just have a deep breath here and reset, but there isn't a straight more than 100 or so. So yeah, it's a frantic rally. It always has been, really.
So, as the cars are flagged away from the start ramp, let's head out to the first of the day's stages. Fastest out of the blocks were Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin. They were in a good position in the championship and knew that they could play it safe. There was more to get out of these stages, but a good push without taking too many risks was the approach for the pair. Two-time winner of the event, Matt Edwards, with David Moynihan alongside, would struggle a little to get confidence in the stages. They might not be flat out fast, but the technical sections were causing the car to feel a little unsettled over these first 2 stages.
Repeat, opens long, okay, 250 down. Turn here for the left, wider.
Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan were still getting used to the new car, and with a whole different setup needed for this event, it would be a cautious start to the day, and they opted for a neat and tidy approach, a little different to the usual style from the pair. There would be no problems on the early stages for James Ford and Neil Shanks as they started the day off in 4th overall. A good opening leg meant they led the way in the Citroën Trophy as well. Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes struggled a little on the first stages. They left the braking a little too late in one place and ended up off the road and in a field. Thankfully, with minimal damage and time lost, they would still reach the end of stage 2 in 5th overall. Eddie Doherty and Tom Murphy didn't feel like they were committed enough on the opening test, and a puncture on the second stage didn't help matters either. They didn't lose too much time though, and were in 6th going into service. Jason Dixon and Martin Brady hadn't been out in a while, so this weekend there were no expectations. They were going well in 7th place, but were another crew to pick up a puncture in the second stage of the day. John McCrone and Kirsty Riddick had made the trip over from Scotland. Their aim was to just slowly try and get on the pace with the leaders as the event went on, and 8th place was certainly a good start to that plan by the end of stage 2. Steve Wood and Kenny Hull were fastest of the national rally competitors so far. They guided their Citroën to 9th overall after stage 2 and were enjoying the stages. Rounding out the top 10 overall with the leading modified crew of Jason Black and Carl Egan. They were struggling a little with the tyres going off after opting for a softer tyre due to a threat of rain that never came. They would be glad for service now to sort that out, but at least they'd still managed to set the early pace in the modifieds.
2 right and flat 1 left, and Carecrest 3 left, 40, 3 right, 1 left.
Second in the modified battle and just behind on the overall results were Damien Toner and Adon Gallagher. They would be happy enough with that for now and still had 8 more stages to try and push the starlet pair up ahead. Ollie Benton and Kyle Diffin were another crew taking the wrong tyres, opting for a medium instead of hard. They were still having a good run though, and were third at this stage in the modifieds. Sadly for Frank and Lauren Kelly, their fight at the top of the modifieds would be over before it started. A puncture on stage 1 seeing them down in 47th place overall, and a couple of minutes off the lead, but they were still going and wouldn't let that stop them from pushing on the next batch of stages. In the RC4 class, the early leaders were Keir Caldwell and Liam Egan. They had a few small issues though, and wouldn't be overly happy with their start to the day. A bigger lead would have been preferred. In fact, any lead at all would have been good, the pair actually having to share the lead with Aoife Rafferty and Hannah McKillop, who finished stage 2 on exactly the same overall time. The pair here this weekend for a bit of seat time on the asphalt, ahead of their ERC campaign on Rally Ceredigion in Wales in a few weeks' time. Third place in that fight would be John O'Rourke and Jack Kennedy, just 6 seconds back from those leading crews at this early stage. So, with just 2 of the 10 challenging stages complete here on Modern Tyres Ulster Rally, the results at the top looked like this.
Keith, it's tight margins, but you took the lead there on stage 2.
Yeah, we did. Just trying to keep it clean and tidy and no mistakes. Really tricky out there. So we'll see now. Next loop, it's all changing now with the weather. So yeah, it's going to be even trickier.
Matt, leader after the first stage, the margins are so fine. Back into second place on stage 2, but now the rain's down. It's going to make it interesting.
Yeah, it's we hope this wouldn't happen really, because we had a bit of a stress-free day, was hopeful, but yeah, good first stage. I mean, probably felt I went a bit better in the second one, to be honest, but yeah, the car's feeling good, the rhythm was good, but obviously now, I was to say, the rain's come down, so we've got a bit of a decision to make.
Callum, the margins are so small at the top. You're in third place, but only 4 odd seconds off the lead. How's your morning been?
Yeah, it's a tight morning. First stage started well. I think there was 0.8 between 4 of us there, which is great. Like, it's savage driving, and then yeah, just dropped a wee bit in the second stage. Just trying to dial yourself onto the setup there. We're making a few changes now for that, but yeah, the rain's here now, so it's another ball game to play.
On to the next loop of stages, and the big news would be the loss of second place Matt Edwards and David Moynihan. They went into stage 3 just 2.4 seconds down on the leaders, but the Fiesta pair were a little wide on one corner and clipped the back wheel on a tree. The damage to the car meant that they would need to pull over a little further into the stage to prevent any further damage.
80. Sorry. 5 right, not your fault.
So that made life a little easier for Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin, but only a little. They still had to watch out behind them, and a wrong tyre choice on this loop wasn't going to help with that. Their lead by the event's midpoint was just 17 seconds.
How was it in there? Really tricky. We were still on the soft tyre. I saw Callum had brought 2 spares of a harder tyre. But we just tried to manage it and take note, just be careful and tight, if not try to overheat the tyre and drive on where we could.
And as you heard from Keith at the end of stage 5, Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan had also come out on the wrong tyre for this loop. But with 2 spares in the car, they had a little more choice of setup for the second half of this loop, although it did make the car a little unsteady in places.
Callum, stage 5, how was it?
Tricky stage. I went with a cross tyre and that, with like a really soft, like a full wet sort of thing, that tyre, and
You changed your tyres at the start of the stage, yeah?
yeah, I changed the start of the stage, so it's a cross, so the balance was a wee bit off, and I got caught out one time in a corner, I had a big slide, this side broke away with the saw.
James Ford and Neil Shanks had a lucky escape on stage 3 when they clipped a gate post. Thankfully, despite the scare, it was only cosmetic damage, and they were able to continue, now up into the podium positions as well. Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes took a gamble with the tyres, which worked for the second half of the loop, as the pair were able to put in some good times. But a puncture on stage 3 affected the overall progress, although they were still positive as they ended the loop in 4th.
Tricky there, Josh.
Yeah, we slid into a ditch there on a tight corner. We had a reverse back, but probably lost a bit of time, but it is what it is.
Eddie Doherty and Tom Murphy were still trying to get through without any mistakes, and they were happy enough with how it was going. They ended the morning in 5th overall. Jason Dixon and Martin Brady were going better than they expected. Having not been out for a while, they were happy to be settled into the top 10 at this stage, although a small feeling of power loss in the car was a growing concern. John McCrone and Kirsty Riddick were continuing their plan of getting a little faster each time out, and it was working on the whole, but the damp conditions on stage 3 had set them back a little. They ended the morning in 7th. Jason Black and Carl Egan would still be leading the way in the modifieds and were now up to an impressive 8th overall. They did have an issue with the brakes sticking on through stage 4, but it didn't seem to be holding them back too much.
Hi, Grant, yeah, warm. A lot drier in there, like, so it is. Probably could have did with a harder tyre, but it's hard to, you just need to compromise there in that loop. So it is. Hopefully the weather's drying out the rest of the evening and we'll get a better tyre choice. So be happy with that.
Steve Wood and Kenny Hull confessed to having lost concentration a little after service, and it took a little time to get back into it. They lay in 9th place overall for now. And moving up to round out our top 10 overall was the second of our modified crews, Damien Toner and Adon Gallagher. They were glad to get out of the damp stage 3 and into more familiar grip levels in the next 2, but a misfire would need looking at in service. Still in 3rd, but now up to 11th overall, were Ollie Benton and Kyle Diffin. They were on the wrong tyres, but were actually lent some by Damien Toner, underlining the great sportsmanship in the modified championship between those podium contenders.
We took wets and a soft, totally wrong, bone dry. Damien Toner, class sportsman, he lent me his spare medium, so we've got soft mediums now. He's fighting for a championship, but he's still happy to lend the tyre, you know, it's really good.
After the morning's issues, it was very much a climb up the overall results for Frank and Lauren Kelly. They were doing what they could to stay in the championship fight, and the day wasn't over yet. There would be a change in the RC4 class. Aoife Rafferty and Hannah McKillop had been on the identical time at the top, but now they led the way on their own, first in class and 28th overall for the pair. So that put Cian Caldwell and Liam Egan into second. It was around 14 seconds difference. The pair still getting used to the car on the asphalt and wishing the stages were all dry so that they could push. There would be no change to 3rd place in this loop of stages. John O'Rourke and Jack Kennedy were in that position, although only 11 seconds back from Caldwell for now. A quick look at the historics, and the leaders were Ray Breen and Damien Morrissey, the pair opening up a good lead there as well by the midpoint in the event. Second of the historic crews at this stage would be Hugh McQuaid and Martin Byrne in the Escort, having occupied that place from stage 1. In 3rd place were Thomas Davis and Anthony O'Sullivan. They were a little untidy in the first 2 by their own admission, in fact ending stage 1 in 4th, but they tidied things up by the end of the loop to lie in 3rd. So, with the first half of the event complete, it was all change at the top, as the 3-horse race had become a 2-horse race, and with only 17 seconds between them, it would be all to play for in the afternoon. On then to the afternoon stages, and with repeated stages comes a higher risk from debris pulled out on the previous pass. But for Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin, thankfully there would be no issues. They were cautious where they needed to be, and so managed their lead going into the final stages of the event. Unfortunately for Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan, the gap was getting a little bigger. Not by much, but it was going the wrong way to be challenging for the win. They knew they had to be sensible though, and finishing second would be better than ending the event in a hedge. There was disappointment for 3rd place James Ford and Neil Schatz. They were pushing hard, claiming their first fastest time in the process, but a prop shaft issue would ultimately put an end to their event on this loop after such a great first half of the event. So that would promote Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes up to 3rd now, and importantly for them it meant they were now the first Citroën. They just needed to keep their noses clean over the final stages and the podium would be theirs. Eddie Doherty and Tom Murphy were also on the move up the results. They were finding the conditions a little slippery in places, but they weren't taking any silly risks. The return to the stages was going well for Jason Dixon and Martin Brady. They knew there was more to come from the car and themselves, but they wanted to make sure they managed the pace and didn't push too hard before they were ready. John McCrone and Kirsty Riddick made a good tyre choice on this loop, happy with how things were going and happy with the performance of the car as well. They were now in 6th, but maybe too far back to make a push for any further places. It was a similar story for Steve Wood and Kenny Hull. They were unlikely to make up the 47 seconds to McCrone ahead, but that wasn't their problem. The charging car behind them was. And that was the first of the modified crews, Jason Black and Carl Egan. They were having an issue with the gear change, but despite that they were lying in 8th overall and just 2.4 seconds back from Wood. Damien Toner and Adon Gallagher seemed to have got the misfire sorted. They were now up to 9th place on the overall standings and holding on to that 2nd place in the modifieds. No change to 3rd in that class as well for Ollie Benton and Carl Diffin, now rounding off the top 10 overall as well. So with just 3 more stages to go, the results at the top were all change once again, but for rally leaders Cronin and Galvin it was looking good for the win, if the pair could stay out of trouble.
Keith, 7 stages down, 3 stages remaining. Not an easy mix of conditions today, so you can't even relax. You've just over 20 seconds. Tyre choice is still probably a talking point.
Yeah, it's been a tough rally. We knew it would be from the start. 20 seconds is a nice lead, but it's not much with these conditions. And like the second pass over these stages now, there'll be a lot of gravel pulled out and stuff. So look, still a long way to go. Trying to manage everything, not take too big a risk. But as I said, that doesn't matter. You can still get caught out.
Callum, it's just not going the right direction. It's 20 odd seconds. You're trying your hardest, but obviously it's a fine line between taking time and going off.
Yeah, it keeps going hard, to be fair to him. You can't take that away from him. But yeah, the weather kind of keeps changing on us all the time. Every time we went back out there that line, we made the car a lot more racier. We thought it was going to be bone dry. We says we need to make a change to try and make some inroads. We landed out and sure, it was raining. But look, we're happy enough. We're pushing on rightly. To be fair, it's a couple of seconds here and there again. It's just, as you say, in the wrong direction that we need. But yeah, we'll just have to keep the head down for the next 3 and see what happens.
Josh, you're up to 3rd position, 3 stages remaining. It's a really difficult event.
Yeah, it sure is, and I suppose the stages alone are very tricky, but the weather's been making it 10 times worse there. So yeah, look, at 3 to go, and we just need to try and keep our nose clean and get through them at this stage.
Jason, you're under a bit of pressure.
Aye, well, a few problems still with the gear chain, so we're trying to get it sorted and just picking tyres, just using the rest of the scrap up.
Yeah, you have a decent lead there. Yeah, you don't have to do anything special.
No, just get around here now, so we aren't doing anything stupid. The main thing.
On to the final loop of the event then, and before we have a look at the overall results, let's have a roundup of some of the class winners at the finish. In the H2 class, the win went to Craig and Guy McWilliam, with a good advantage at the end of the day over Malcolm Pedlow and Billy Regan in their BMW 2002. In N1 there would just be 1 crew at the finish, and that would be Malcolm Johnston and Sam McGill in the Fiesta ST. The N2 class would see another Fiesta at the top, this time the R2 car of Michael and David Nutt. They took the win by a decent margin over Edward and Ellie Cogan in the Peugeot 106. In the N3 class things were a little closer, but with almost 2 minutes of a gap, the victory went to Dara Kelly and Ashley Bolton in the Peugeot 208 over the Toyota AE86 of Robert Irwin and Neil Irvine. Just the one finisher in the N4 class, and that was the escort of Ryan McArdle and Donal Lennon. In the N9 class it was Gordon Cunningham and Stuart McManus that were the only crew to reach the finish in their Mitsubishi. Johnny Mulholland and Callum Maguire were fastest in the RC3 class, with a massive 10 minutes of an advantage by the finish over the similar car of Richard O'Lone and Declan Campbell. The event was also a part of the Junior Championship and Micro Challenge, taking place over 7 of the 10 stages, and 6th place would go to Raymond McLaughlin and Martin McBrearty at the finish. 5th at the end of the event would be Sean Foy and Adrian Marsh, almost 3 minutes ahead by the finish, but a 4-minute penalty for McLaughlin behind would have been the difference in a place at the finish. Andrew Bush and Geraldine McBride brought their Micro home in 4th place overall and 3rd in the Micro Challenge results this weekend. Third place overall and taking the junior win were Barry McIntyre and Brian Keohan in their Civic. Second place overall and also in the Micro Challenge were Stanley Orr and Jane Edgington. Stanley going well in that car and only 31 seconds off the lead, or 21 if you account for a 10-second penalty. But that meant it was the Micro Challenge win this time for Philip White and Liam Callaghan, having led the category from stage 3 onwards. Back to the overall results then, and for David Armstrong and Ivor Ferguson it would be third place in the historics. They'd enjoyed the day, and despite a few wrong tyre choices slowing their overall progress a little, they also took the H3 class win. It was all change in the afternoon for Thomas Davis and Anthony O'Sullivan. They were able to get back some time and move up into second place. A little bit of a moment in stage 7 did wake them up though. But as if the win was ever in doubt, it was victory for Ray Breen and Damien Morrissey. They led the way early on and took the win by 2 minutes. The RC4 class had a shake-up as we lost Cian Caldwell and Liam Egan on the final loop when the pair suffered gearbox issues. That promoted everyone behind them up the class results. So for Sean O'Martin and Peter Ward, it meant they were able to take third in the class on the final batch of stages. It also meant a move for John O'Rourke and Jack Kennedy as well. Second place in the RC4 class for the pair and 29th overall. And that all meant there were no issues for Aoife Rafferty and Hannah McKillop, taking the class win and putting in some valuable miles on the asphalt ahead of the ERC round in Wales in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. We've enjoyed today a lot. The stages were great and great preparation now for a couple of weeks' time when we head to Wales.
That was the whole reason for being here, of course, was a sort of a training rally for Kerry-Deegan in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, that's why we're here, but we enjoyed it today and it was great to be back home again and competing on tarmac here. So yeah, we really enjoyed the stages, and a massive thank you to everybody who helped run the event and to all my own sponsors in the Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy for their help as well.
On to the top 10 overall and our modified fight, and it would be 10th for Gareth Black and Conor Dunlop, enough to get them third in the modified battle this weekend. There would be a change in those results though, as we lost Jason Black and Carl Egan, the prop shaft breaking on stage 8, putting them out of the event. Frank and Lauren Kelly weren't where they wanted to be in the battle, but they did get a finish that keeps their championship hopes alive, and that was the best they could ask for after the morning's problems. Ollie Benton and Kyle Diffin had problems of their own, but thankfully they were all okay by the finish, and the pair were able to take second place in the modifieds and 9th overall. Cal McCarthy and Eric Calnan started the day off with a couple of overshoots on stage 1, and since then they've been working their way up the results. They managed to get themselves up as high as 8th place overall at the finish. With the loss of Black, the modified win went to Damien Toner and Adon Gallagher. You never want to take a win that way, but of course in rallying you have to get to the finish, so they'd be happy to add some good points to the total from this round.
I get the modified win and get full points. We come for the full points and to get the modified win is an extra bonus. Very, very tricky stages, hey, and we look forward to going to Cork now. It leaves us more interesting. What does so? Great championship, hey, no notion of doing this championship at all, and now I'm going for trying to win it, so it's great.
Steve Wood and Kenny Hull kept themselves out of trouble all day to end the event with 6th place overall, a good result, and one that sees Steve second in the Citroens and claiming some prize money in the process. Unfortunately, the drama among the top 10 hadn't finished just yet. We lost Jason Dixon and Martin Brady when they made a small mistake on this crest, and the back end of the car hit the tree. With too much damage to the car, they would be forced to pull over soon afterwards, putting an end to what could have been a good result for the pair. John McCrone and Kirsty Riddick would be more than happy with their rally. They came here with the plan of getting closer to the leaders, and 5th place overall certainly wasn't a bad result for the pair. Another crew happy with their result this weekend were Eddie Doherty and Tom Murphy. No issues to report for the pair as they got settled in throughout the day and put in some great times to take 4th place overall at the finish. On to the podium places, and Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes found themselves in no man's land a little, unable to really gain any places and looking safe enough in 3rd. It was a good end to the event, and the pair took some decent prize money in the Citroen C3 trophy as well. Unfortunately, there was nothing more that Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan could do over the final loop. They took a little time from the leaders, but it wasn't enough. Second place, however, wasn't a bad result at all, and the pair added some more points to their championship total. But adding a win to their tally were Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin. They kept it together on the final loop, backing off a little, but realising they could get caught and pushed on once again. The win strengthened the championship hopes for the pair, and they'll go to Cork with the ball very much in their court. So, with the Modern Tyres Ulster Rally drawing to a close, and before we chat to our winner at the finish, here's a reminder of how those overall results were decided.
We had a great start to the championship. Just a few things went against us in the middle of the season, but it was great to get the win here again on possibly some of the most challenging stages of the year. So much happening out there to catch us out, so it was good not to make any mistakes.
Yeah, tough and tricky demand rally. Ulster seems to always be like that. We thought this weekend coming to it that there'd be no rain forecast is what it showed, but yeah, it definitely didn't go like that. So it was tricky all day and bits of rain all day, and yeah, look, we're happy to get through it, and yeah, it was probably a good result. And to be fair to Keith, he drove well, and he was definitely the quickest man today, so fair play to him and Mikey. So yeah, it's all guns now to Cork, so we'll see how that goes.
I started off like with a reasonable time on stage one, and then unfortunately between going into the field at one point there and getting the flat wheel as well, we've a mixed enough day. But look, I think we're starting to make some good improvements with the car, so overall we're pretty happy with the day.